Scott, is that you? What, email's LB email chain?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I just hate it when you're like trying to describe your email and they're like, is it a 1 or an I?
I sent it, but I'm like 90% sure it's the right version, so I'm going to check it for you.
I'm saying it's still safe.
No, I know, but when you're ready, I'll check them out.
What is resent?
Yeah, if it's the wrong one. You do not make sense.
No, nothing.
Everyone's here? Yeah, I'm ready. You cool? Anybody else? The role of us is to mitigate pressure to material conditions when and late, and we divide people into in-groups and out-groups. So outside of group, outside of scope, and just including to confront every criticism we know is barely knows of current stages. We do not open our minds up as we draw conceptual lines between in and out of our most historical those spots out of our most student becoming different what it means to not to acknowledge injustice, suffer material conditions come first, but to see the wolf and standpoint of the press, we should know the conflict of abstraction away to competition with oppression, abstractional theories, discussing aspirational liberalism with no connection with those concepts, meaning people's sides, high talk, mass racist and sexist ugliness. The state is inevitable. Speaking the language of power through policy making is the only way to create social change and debate that is Coverstone 5. Control of the government's percentages about sympathetic obligations discussed with coverage using that's not motivation for activists, lost narratives unconnected to political power, to the role-playing field, tactical legal power, the signature more power, independent power, the face of Germany, magic, social revolution, knows the difference than advancing on Capitol Hill. Inherency, coach, legislation is strong now. Without protection, their bill will pass. Koch, legislators introduced bills in 2017 and sanctioned protesters and others, bills of the verbatim from the Gold Water Model of my Liberty University to enact free speech. Also, the sanctioned for everyone. The Koch funded generation opportunity one of the effort of the North Dakota bill came directly from the Gold Water Model. It's nationwide in a short time frame. Soon it'll appear everywhere. Wilson and March State, lawmakers cross-country coordinated on campus free speech bills, including the leaders student protest speech protests that are private donors corporation. The bills found by partisan for failure citizens and smooth through the space in the Campus Free Speech Act. In fact, 2 bills were introduced by Republicans the past week in response to New Michigan. The latter goes so far as to call itself the Campus Free Speech Act, the plan. Public colleges and universities in the United States ought not restrict any constitution-protected speech. Maloney. Universities exemplify debates and push sexism by pitting women and people by recently discourse and the students are being silenced. Restricted campus speech codes are regressive. Advantages versus protest. Campus Free Speech Act guide kills protest kitsch. This bill bans protest and restrictions on others should not be permitted. This is prohibited from protected acts. For example, chanter solemnity, versus with face legal enactment sanctions the bill would authorize. But also for the second offense bill calls for partial policing. The provision is pretty clear. There is no method to resist post-passage. Wilson. Even students who commit sexual violence not subject to minimum suspension. Suppose a student's conversation might have violation here of another offense by legal silence. University could choose the charges dealing with 2 offenses. The person technically need to be suspended for a year. Occupy was only at the beginning. Soon let movements and parties have a chance of rupturing neoliberalism and authoritarianism and largely just in a push for states to cultivate democracy. That is uniqueness. After the one they see, students are pushing the postponements of the right to create every system of social domination. We are trying to die. Row. The youth participants' responsibility to be in democracy rather than rejecting it. Either young people should inform what politics is, to challenge authoritarianism, they challenge dominant discourses, to include poverty, death, and corporate corruption. These youth movements to the right of removal is needs that promises little fulfillment. The movement class that economic crisis not to match by crisis of ideas and propelling young people towards the formation of every of those of these young people adult brought to reproduce war, greed, political corruption, and ruthless neoliberalization. Youthful participants rate the option that there is an alternative to capitalism rather than disappearing, but to focus on strategy, struggles to get university to disinvest, fight student debt, and above education space that can provide formative culture. Democratic religion is the attempt to create space in which democratic culture can cultivate that the radical imagination can be brought to liberate from the scene of capitalism and challenge over participate to extend and develop the vision of the more ephemeral protests. Protests are good at incites political action. Code. Protests get people politically active every 10 years. Tax additional votes policies motivated the different political outcome actually increased over time, larger than the lasting effects of participation. Second is coaches. Coach efforts succeed as backers of free speech-based protests. Coach 2 is far raise free-speech opposition legislation and on protest. States have borrowed bills from the global industry funded by conservative political events, including coach state foundation. In the intention of these bills to protect student protests, it's actually to suppress it in favor of guest speakers, wealthy conservatives are enabling hate speech from students and coach benefits from a more friendly academic environment for other student economic change, increased tax and regulation, free capitalism. This legislation would create a chilling effect to reject supremacy climate deniers and are relying on their people to stop action to prevent climate catastrophe. The coaches and providing voices to your society to attack regulation, people autocracy, and the connection to coaches clear. The efforts for these bills are coming from big pockets. Koch 3, Kurtz, Senators for Stevens, and also conservative family church. Charles Bates Coach from more than 9 million contribution from 2016-2015. Goldwater Institute to continue to 5 million from donors. The Charles Coach Foundation to 75,000. They'll take Koch's academic president and next one creating protect picture of roots of value coaches, free market state. And there is a targeted goal to coaches, captain spreads, camp spreads, more coaches conservative growth that's uncoached. The coaches activity developed and integrated check policy change and funding of university policy students of graduate college state national education. So they gave the major staffing for chapters around the country and fully integrated. And coach funding is the sole purpose of reviving a neoliberal model that gives untrained economic, political, and social counter capitalism. That is Giraldi. Coach is a capitalist spirit and his goal is to re-indoctrinate to the peer theory of capitalism, the sole principle of capitalism and freedom ideology that the coaches are pushing is a possible threat to the progressive turn of the American economy. They're just taking Americans are taking the conclusion that ideals need to be radically thought coaches are threatening that turn to when they're throwing their money in there and disappeared in the neoliberal model. Under view first, auto-top the argument all planning was lost. You would see it one which creates a structural time of educated fairness. You keep running your favor. Next, interpretation. At the 2017 TOC tournament, debaters must disclose all broken positions with taglines, title of article, author's name, and the full wording of the evidence. To clarify, debaters must full text disclose evidence when they disclose. This does not entail that all analytics must be disclosed in their entirety, just that evidence must. This also does not entail that you give us the fully cut version of the evidence, just the evidence itself. Violation, you didn't. Your militarism after round 1 cuts at the beginning and last bits of evidence. First is research where disclosure makes it possible to rectify research and not for debaters, bigger schools have access to research to smaller schools. Don't. Disclosing small schools can find and cut evidence they would have had without the wiki. Disclosure incentivizes research on both sides. Debaters should be disclosed arguments and productive online, but they disclose disclosure also helps quality research that's nails. Disclosure motivates research debaters with access when case students can go to a new level of depth researching. Officers and now seasons with the debaters. Disclosure increases incentive to research by altering cost-benefit analysis. Publicly accessible evidence of financial research back doesn't put it done now a long time ago. Research burden instrumental to education. The amount of we research this discerns how much we can actually engage in the topic. Then second is accessibility. There's a section of our topic literature and evidence that's blanketed by paywalls and online protection. Inability to access that information is easily believable. I've personally been stopped by Hein online more times than I can count. Full text disclosure means that even in the face of inaccessible evidence, debater can still understand the crux of the arguments that are being detailed. That firstly, last 3 or a few words disclosure can never solve. Additionally, having that access here is uniquely key. There's no chance to require an ability to another tournament. Then we have huge time crunches to do so. And interested academics can't access massive information. Word sourcing ameliorates and allows for new education. That's Pinto. To readers, basic places like media collections, unavailable books are often sold more than 3-4 times the price of best-selling novel. Outside of highly professional and increasingly organized efforts to be universally responsive to producing critical research without access to such material. The evidence is clearly clear. The scholars are producible when they get access to the material. They attempt to support a critique, skip the analytics, voters' education to voter, appreciate their ability to debate, competing in terms of media evaluated often reasonably bad. First, invite judge intervention, which takes away the better debater. Second, invite judge biases. Debaters anti-objective values means that judge can decide, skip the side, drop the debater. You can't top the argument. There's no argument available. No RBI. It's not separate. You don't win for being fair. You can remove the C point in reasonability.
Okay.
Fairness. Yeah. Set. You get it? Okay. Yep.
What are your reasons for visibility then?
The first one is that it invites judge bias, which removes from our ability to decide the better debater in an objective manner. Second one invites judge bias against debaters. Anti-objective evaluation means judge can decide in an oppressive manner, such as racial bias or sexual bias, which may not occur in this round. it's a very clear evaluation of why a subjective standard just to evaluating offense would probably be worse than just taking an objective standard in any situation.
Sorry, could you repeat that last argument?
Sir, the argument is that a judge may decide, if we were to decide that subjective standards for judging are good, right, instead of like offense, defense-based paradigms, then that would invite any number of subjective preferences, which I could believe is a slippery slope claim that we would like to remove ourselves from, which is why competing interpretations is better.
Okay. What is the reason for drop debater? It says drop debater.
There is, I explicitly detailed, there's no argument to detail, or to drop, right? We have to drop every single thing disclosed in detail. Present in the round is a prior concern. Okay. So the only thing you can do is drop the debater. It's logically impossible to drop the argument.
Okay. Is it shell disclosed in your movie?
What?
Is it shell disclosed?
Yeah, NC round 6.
It's disclosed as NC round 6.
It is disclosed in the file NC round 6 full text.
Okay, sweet.
With a slightly modified inter,
Okay.
which would make this new technically since I have a new inter. So I think that's a semantic concern that might come up later.
Okay, so it's a new, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
technically, if you're going to make that claim.
Are the code bills in place right now?
No. Not entirely throughout states. They're pushing through House right now. But as far as I know, there have been none that have been implemented. I also don't think that changes the impact of the AC, which would then remove that bill from its place and replace it with this policy action.
Okay. What's the impact of protest? Like Occupy failed, right? So what happens?
Wait, say that again?
What did Occupy do?
I think it's pretty clear that Giroux details where Occupy was beginning. A beginning statement that details how young people have started. So perhaps Occupy did not fulfill its large-scale goals, but Occupy motivated in terms of like pushing students to push their universities in a referendal sense and a small step reform sense. We do not argue that protest overturns capitalism as a whole, rather that protest is a way to orient ourselves in a direction away from capitalism and is one of the only ways to do that. In fact, perhaps the only way on college campuses, which is a reason why we would rather have protests than not have protests.
Okay.
Can you not?
Okay.
It's winter and late. And the role of the ballot is to mitigate oppression through material conditions. Sorry, so theory went off the case. Can you send me a counterintuitive if you're reading one?
It's just going to be the converse. Yeah, I can look it up. Yeah. Now or after my speech?
Now. I won't know correct time, it's not a big deal. Reset the doc.
So we start with recognitions, then the counter. So I think that's good.
Reject the argument, equal is key to maximizing the standard of education by making it an all types of issue and also deterring that theory, equal is a better theory, which can always be read, which means that this is always specifically the key, which means you reject the non-physical stuff, and you vote on the case terms, and I'm going to read it a little bit. The second thing is reasonability, reasonability, A1 is a key to maximizing by deterring bad theory, B1 is to maximize the value of good research, because people can't just get away with bad theory, you say your warrants use it, well, A1 might just craft better, that's all judgment mechanism. I think it's just one theory that has to lead, so abusive to people when it's only done to this round, like, because I don't want to everyone also still apply the sequence that is possible way, judged by space results, and I'm based on argument showing that the counter-interpretation is the counter-interpretation proper, the negative element of physical text, they do have physical first, last year, full size, and tags, and if they won't must send the floor to go to press it, I have tags after sites in the counter-interpretation. I have the interpretation one is research skills, make sure that there's just below set of the parts and regions, the highlighted parts, and part, and 70 the entire target, so maximize the second is that they change the center of your own full text, equal to the exact order, arguments out there that we need your interpretation, or it's different from any version that we able to word the last one, which means you why their text arguments, their interpretation is new, because they were changed a little bit, so our interpretation the interpretation from one, we closure is good, you don't have to say any kind of fun but you just do Google it, and there's no access to data, that's an interpretation. There's the specificness is key. You can run access to arguments, then you might have to consider for there's no specific piece for it. If you can't find it, we don't respond to your basically there's something you can just context when I call it, but access to it, fifth is that you just find out whether it is that debater doesn't, and this time, you know, funny game. Higher teaching funding is that we're going to Anderson for well, I think President pointed to the concept of order to minimize the time left to promote the rank of one thing used in the free solution, the purpose of the higher teaching funding is contribution to every training students to be in positions of geology, more useful than any constitution of those things, and 14B, IPC just as the rest of students speaking the draft flood, white world carbon levels of legible green, these reverse pencil like e-waste draft flood type actuation limits that are reported as social support and speed straight green related changes in teaching patterns, found comments become more common, still as well as some self-flooding, region those into faster these shit sales should more efficient people out of that approach to the teams and their assumptions as well. More purposes to learn for more communities to come to always take more chance case that because what we make the release of which is the transfer to the one that was supposed to be one is their versatility, you know, improve value of the never go back to the staff is one skill effectively basically like other bad case. Coaches page 1, 2, like the all time high special minorities, you're using from the resolve heritage one intensive that have how capitals needs co-creating system of capitals used better than you could have to change the taking recommendation of recommending alternative that is really not dealing with the class of capitals and generally leads to B2 where I have the purpose better speaking to direct as the requirement that we plus the trading type also quickly that should be
the right kind of legally adapted or steps taken by governments to limit after these aging or crowded believers often use them to capitalism or transition capital transition more sculptors are not going to be capitals for Alicia and the rate of changes that embedded people are how they make the local transmission for the property as a professional decisions that are to agree to such family action and consider to stop progress discussion of promoting capital development and clubs for context or clothing study futures and the last mix of the center for the expansion of for circle system ones as indicated in purchase with the domains and commercial loan experiencing increasing discounts and national competition in acquisition and population how many education sector making the shows each as working subject to China shows importance of international education status and family education Group 4 fancy prohibition though is the reasonable and real time updating the support women move to the surveys that show the use of the really involved in the behaviors and already solving school and sharing like about the inclusive races speech and the G features of the training they're given that messages to get people send majority they hear other 2 7 after work by the service choose your different abilities especially about the full test measure commonly from the official move now the future that you cannot renew the or reason or users in the AC, which means that we can only have the excuse 1 and C2, excuse 1 and C strategy, and I'll be the last word for the episode to actually happens to be their description of never mind. Now, last, I'll read some more reasons why you should use reasonability. There's always, you can always say that it's going to be harder today, which justifies them saying things like, oh, you were in a really good position to continue, you must have supported voter program and the second thing. Those last things that education help with fairness, because the last half time that my friends only in surrounding you can never win.
Okay. Can you send me a file?
Actually, you read everything.
You read everything?
Okay, yeah. The last part in the protest is actually the same thing as this one.
The last part in the protest part? Yeah. Alright. So I'll delete that.
Yeah.
We'll get started. Okay. Is everyone ready? Does Snurnicky operate as a link term? So, okay.
I mean, I think it's. I guess it's a term that's like an unique term.
Is it a link term?
I'd say it might be.
Please say yes. Okay. Cool. Let's talk about this funding dissad. Is there any uniqueness that details that funding could go up? Presumably, Anderson says funding is getting worse.
That's why the formative triggers that. If you say funding, then
Okay. So do you do not detail any evidence ever that says like cuts may stop, right? Like what's stopping us from going over the brink right now? Is there anything stopping us from going over the brink right now? Like for example, cuts stopping.
I mean, you have not introduced evidence that indicates we go over the brink right now.
What's the brink? Do you know how much money has to be lost?
We don't cite a number of dollars because nobody does. Our evidence indicates that.
Why is this has been?
I mean, our evidence indicates that public funding has been being cut for a long time, which means we're ahead of our time.
Okay. How does Scutari push us over the brink?
Scutari.
So let's say 2 people decide that they don't want to fund anymore and they stop giving $100 a year to Berkeley. Why does that push us over the brink?
It's obviously not that number of people.
Okay. So let's talk about.
I mean, it's kind of telling. The thesis of the affirmative is that a bunch of rich people would stop donating to the
Sure. Cool. Let's talk about these drop the argument claims. What does drop the argument entail in this debate round for you?
Rejects positions that
So the drop the argument words. Okay. Let's talk about this net benefit. What specifically about first 3, last 3 incentivizes research skills?
We say that instead of just pulling up the dot and not reading the entire part and understanding context, it would just be the parts that are highlighted, which obviously is not the same thing at the level of depth understanding that is desired from the debate.
Okay. Yeah, you read 2 reasonability reasons that I heard. You said stop bad theory and what else?
I said stop bad theory. I said there's always better interns.
Better
I
interns.
said it encourages better research
because debaters can't just get away with theory.
Okay, that's fine.
Strategic cases get more strategic.
Alright, bro. You read Coombs? .57 left. Order is under view, A, C, and C. By AC, I mean all the case responses and case. I don't know how you can float it, it's pretty fast.
The DA is in 1 NC order?
Yes. So, well, you read the hate speech one second.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
So, yeah, hate speech. Let me check my flows, because they're all over the place. Yeah, hate speech will be second. There's nothing here. We'll start with the framing on the underview. And then standard analysis. We do whatever it's written.
Extent competing interpretations, a better model is an objective model. The question you have to ask the NC is, where did you isolate a bright line for reasonability? The answer is there was none, which makes it impossible for you to evaluate when something is reasonable. So long as that's true, even if reasonability is the model that is detailed, we never had a stasis point as to when something is reasonable. I will give it to you. Reasonable standard is one where full text disclosure occurred. So long as that is true, it's the only guideline for a reasonable claim because it's the only one that could resolve the accessibility problems. If that is the case, then reasonability, either A, point can never be met by true outs, or B, point is not the correct model. And you have to use competing interpretation for offense defense anyways. Don't allow them to get you framing issues in the one in our 8 point. He said that framing issues in the AC are bad. Clearly, they would also be bad in the NR if those arguments are true. And also, he automatically lets me shift to new framing issues, which effectively moves the 1AR or any framing issues that were immediately created, which moves time claims, whereas you would prefer a framing issue that was created in the round proper and the prior commitment, which means he could get out of all the offense by saying, oh, never mind, we've changed our framing debate, which you should not allow. Let us go to the drop the argument claims. You have a fundamental misunderstanding of drop the argument functions. Drop the argument entails that the argument that theory is indicting goes away, not that theory in and of itself goes away. So long as it's true, it is effectively impossible for you to drop the argument. Is that there is no specific argument to drop. Rather, it is your practice that we are dropping. A drop the argument would effectively mean you drop the debater in and of himself because his practice is bad. Ergo, circular response to drop the debater. We will win your true drop the argument warrants anyways. You said substance is prior, but you have made it substance impossible, and we will detail it in our second argument is that you have not attacked any of the arguments as to why we will go for it. No, actually, that's fine. This is possible to drop the argument. Let's go to the shell. Extend the interpretation that you have to cite it, you have to disclose full text shells, you have conceded the accessibility standard that details that the prior condition to ever creating some kind of educated nature is the ability for you to reach evidence. You have not said why your ability, why you have not classified why your specific plank that says if we give you the evidence we resolve this, we will still beat that back. You have conceded that it is impossible for multiple persons to actually access evidence and conceded the Pinto evidence that details that the only way that scholars can become better or education is better if there is some kind of educated framing that they can use to create their scholarship. If you have removed the ability for them to do that, or if you have made that harder, then we have comparative offense detail. So long as that is true, if we win his reacher skills argument, all the defense effectively does not matter. You have conceded the bottom evidence that details that education is important. I did not read a fairness voter, which means the weighing doesn't matter. So we will go to your counter-interpretation. You have said that if we give you the files, that is okay. Two arguments. First, it's not what you do, it's what you justify. Giving me the files will not change the practice to do that. Second, you disclose this in round one, which means every time someone looked for a file and probably found it unavailable and didn't ask you, they've lost it, which means there's tangible offense for other debaters you have hit against in this round. Let's go to your research skills argument. First argument is that your counter-interpretation does not resolve research skills. You say first three veracity justifies people going to the article, but what it justifies is people going to the article and saying Control F and reading the first three and then reading the last three, which means it is effectively no different from full text. The only difference is that you have to go through a paywall, which means you have no effective reason why research skills is better. You have minimal reason why education is better. We have a massive accessibility claim that details that in any offensive paradigm you would automatically go for me, which makes it a game over issue. The rest of it is defensive in nature, but it does not do anything because A point still links it to your counter-interpretation, which means all those research arguments would still exist, making it possible for you to have any unique defense. Let us go to the AC, overview to the AC. All of your defensive arguments pertain that the status quo is okay. Now, that is fine. The inherency of Koch evidence details that the status quo is also going to go away because campus restrictions will go away, i.e. the Koch bill says that no campus restrictions except for protests, which means two things. First, the uniqueness for your hate speech dissent goes away because all campus free speech goes away, which means that dissent is effectively gone. You have a minimal time frame, you will win the weighing analysis. Second argument is that your protest evidence, even if it's good in the status quo, means it'll go away. You have no defense on case. And on the impact turn and capture, we do not link. We do not say cap is bad, rather aspects of cap is bad. So long as that is true, small scale reform removes us from the link. You can extend the impact that details that cap is the only thing that gives us some kind of value to claims, and Giroux evidence that specifically says we want small scale reform. You can go to the endowments to say there is a litany of arguments. The first is no break claim. You haven't told us why the break is access. Second is good evidence. First term, we raise endowments for persons who are protest oriented, i.e. persons who think that protests are good and stop the system, which return case you have not given us any numbers. We do not have to give you numbers. It is effectively a wash. We don't know where it goes. Second, you can't resolve. You have not given us a break access. Let's go to the SNP evidence. One, no climate policy now, which means you can never resolve. Two, Trump, I'll call it climate shit's going to occur no matter what you do, which means you have no impact to it.
Okay. 4:30.
Yeah. What did you say on the cap stuff? You said small scale letting cap?
Yeah, Giroux, the way that we did not, for example, our framing mechanism was not get rid of cap, right? Our solvency was not cap goes away. The Giroux evidence indicates that the solvency that we are trying to access is a change of capitalist policy.
For example, like some student debt stuff and such, which means that the affirmative does not entail cap disappears. You have no link to your entire second advantage part. The only way that you would access or garner an impact turn if I say cap is explicitly bad, which JC did not take a stance to. Especially in CX when I tell you reformism is the approach.
What's your response to the APG?
The entire thesis of the AC is that in the status quo, speech, like all speech restrictions will soon go away, except for one. What that entails is that your uniqueness also goes away in the status quo because all speech restrictions go away. The reason this app is so strategic is that it is a minutia between the status quo and the affirmative, which means your disside uniqueness is just gone. Right? Because there will be no speech restriction.
Could you repeat that?
There will be, like, if the inherency evidence that you concede in extended Koch is true, then there will be no hate speech protections in the status quo. Because the bill that is being passed says do not restrict free speech in any form except for people who protest free speech. They also say something about like university neutrality, but I don't think that's pertinent to the issue. So long as that is true, your uniqueness is gone. And we have won pretty clear time frame claims, or we at least have pretty clear time frame claims in the Koch evidence that say that these bills are coming hard and fast.
Rivers case DA, that's theory.
Which DA?
The funding DA.
for a case.
When case is going to start with the calculated stuff.
Notation is that theory. Open here.
Substance in the 1A or is pitiful. Your evidence, the only thing I can answer is your small scale evidence, because otherwise calculated is the only option to this round. Your evidence in the impact is the Giraldi evidence, not just the protest argument, which literally says that Charles Coach is the way to teach indoctrinal pure capital. We have said indoctrinal pure capitalism is a good thing. The affirmative fighting against that is bad. The eighth one is that even if you win the change of capitalism a little bit, it still leads to our transition wars. Impact, which says that trying to transition away from capitalism in the small scale will fail because other countries backlash against it because they want data to profitable for them for America to remain capitalist. The impacts are twofold. The one is that you don't solve anything, and the point of view that they result in things that are worse because at least impacts like war and death, impacts like war and death. I think the second thing reason is that it causes transition wars because it causes us to lash on our state of transitioning away from capitalism. Also, a war impact. Second is that you can see that the second is that we have said that pure capitalism is better than any other alternative. That was a self-correcting argument. The pure capitalism is constantly self-correcting because it cites historical evidence, which is the first time that we read on the case transitioning away from that or detracting that and saying historical analysis would be better than their empirical moment in the money or the last thing I'm going to go over is the capsule to war, which is for the trainer evidence, which was also conceded is inefficient and compensated to go to war, which means that pure capitalists are the least likely that we are to go to war. You can see it some way that indicates that magnitude from first is going to be pretty key in the funding DA comes extinction and war comes first, so it's going to be pretty key in the funding DA as well, which means that introduced willing is negative, but even if it is very, very small, the eighth one is reversibility. You can only go back and improve things when you can never go back and solve things. The one is magnitude, the scope is defensibility, and the surrounding evidence is defense to the only other advantage that you have, which is the protest advantage. You use the protest to because it goes on the affect of real politics, it never skills up, which means that additional protest in the can never solve anything in the folks are just saying things as being much as the funding DA, proper overview that was in terms of the one is that the story of the DA is that funding is barely they're now increasing protest even a little bit, causes donors to backlash, which cuts funding to research, which turns the case and also prevents key tech to solve warming. Always be the distinction, always eternity of the case in terms of the evidence turns that is it now. The line by line thesis, which already doesn't matter, and the link is extremely big for the affirmative. The thesis claim with the affirmative advantage, which we can see that there are way more protests than one of the affirmative than the negative. The injecting the bills of direct response to protest. The brink is now because state public funding is decreasing. That reliance upon donors and endowments is increasing, right? Now, where you say no break, you say not enough protest. And then the second thing you say that the advantage is like your advantage is entirely that protests increase a lot after the affirmative causes protest. That is your advantage. Our solvency is correlated with your advantage, which means we definitely solve. Yeah, I mean, go negative on the funding here. Now the theory stuff. Theory is good night. Two things in the framing issues. The reasonability arguments. One is that this is nonsense. This is not what reasonability means. You can just say your right line is your interpretation. That's obviously nonsense. It's about infinity view. It's about infinity view. We'll make a couple of arguments here. One is that if we have an empty defense here, stands equal to negative. And second is that evaluate one if you say wasn't right. The funding case turns out to be exactly most arguments in the entire world. Second is that two of you debated in policy, I know for sure. And there's never a bright line read on reasonability, which means obviously that is not just how reasonability is, which is your entire argument here. Third is that if we win a little bit of our arguments answering your disclosure shall proper, then you should go negative because the reason for reasonability were pretty much the second reason for reasonability is that there are bidirectional interpretations always between reasonability and always between reasonability, which means that it speaks of tip engagement. Also, the research was talking most conceded in saying that reasonability makes strategic cases and good research more strategic. Second is the predicting argument. One is that our interpretation of predicting argument is you should reject all cases that were not full text disclosed. We can obviously still on the case terms because those are obviously new to the trial. Second is that you said it's not just how it works. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can just assert things about the nature of debate. Second is that is how it works. It's also of your abuse because it's also enough of your abuse because you reject large parts of the 1 and C, which means you counteracts against any sort of disadvantage you might have had. The last thing I'm saying is that you consider our education benefit the argument as well because it's substantial. education by continuing our debate after the 1 hour empirically verified fidelity. We would lose way more education over terrible theory debates than we do over not full text disclosing versus small text disclosing, which is anyways here like red line, which doesn't make any sense. Now the counter-interpretation, there are two arguments I'm going to go for. The first one is that you conceded that the negative positions and everything changes every round, which means disclosing full text focus on the exact version I write that round as opposed to what the argument actually means, which the offense to our counter-interpretation, which was conceded first, conceded off the last pretty defense in seconds. You conceded an I meet to your interpretation that what we read this round is different from what we read last round, which means if you buy their line in cross-text when they were like, this interpretation is new, which we technically didn't have to disclose it, the 1 and 2 that we read in this debate is new because we read it slightly different from every other third, which means we meet their interpretation, conceded arguments come over any two error responses, hold down the line here because two of our strategies obviously predicated on a key 1 AR, drops down the last thing I'm going to go for the defense here, accessibility arguments. One is that you consider that even if when you can just contact me, you say you can't access multiple articles at once. You first of all, yes, you can disprove that second is that I can just send you the full text of the article by sending you a picture or copy pasting into a Word document there, then I can just send you the PDF for this, I can just send you the full text of the card, obviously if I read it, I have full text, which is self-your advantage, which is self-your advantage, definitely going for the counter-interpretation, systematic where you said the only difference you read is that people just read first philosophy and not do more research. Yes, but they are forced to go to the article, which means they might be like, oh, I see something else cool here, or oh, I at least have to read all of it instead of just the underlying highlighted part, at least bastardization of evidence and just stealing evidence as opposed to doing actual new research. This is the one to see claim. The last specific I'm going to go for is a condition that I said, even if you can't access it when if I like off Facebook or something, you can access it from me, you can access it from asking your college friends who might be able to practice it with you, and if they can't access it, you can access it by people who hit me in previous rounds. The point is there are multiple ways to access full text, which is sufficient. The last time, sorry, one more argument that I'm going for is defense is that first to last game time gives you the aspect of the argument, which means you're able to answer is the core of the position. Listen, substance is game over. They went for one impact, which was impact turn. The best form of capitalism is the purest form. And the second thing that we impact turn is 50 seconds. So, order will be an overview. Sorry, order will be a complete speech to said on the Centauri evidence. No, sorry, the endowments is on Centauri, then cap, then theory.
Let me know whenever you're ready.
Cool.
Yeah.
This may have been easier for you if you didn't concede a wing turn on the dissad. If that is true, then that means that we are the ones who are winning. There's offense on the dissad that you blatantly dropped in the Centauri evidence that I read in the 1 AR. The argument was that we raise endowments. It was very specific and about 15 seconds long that says that protest-oriented donors are always going to want to give more money because they think that this is a good thing, that this space is creating a world where we can have more protests. If that is true, then the affirmative world is one where the endowment levels have increased entirely. This is 100% Cole conceded. If Sherbatson is saying that I need is the standard as to why concessions are the winning argument, then this also applies, which means that I am automatically winning. You have lost this debate. That means that the only thing I have to do is win, that this cap impact turn does not link, because I'm the only one who is stopping the offense you have detailed. I've made a better role for endowments. We will go to the ACN cap. You fundamentally misunderstand the way that the 1 AR functions in terms of cap. We do not argue that cap goes away. If that is true, then a lot of these shifts that you're making with no evidentiary backing should not be bought. The truest evidence says that capitalism is good, and the specific tag that you read in your link evidence that says transition from cap causes transition wars requires a transition from cap, not a resistance to cap. If that is true, then we do not make the brink required for your impact claim to be true. You independently created an independent brink for your Turner's evidence that says the collapse of capitalism is what causes war. If that is true, and the AC has a bunch of defense right that says it does not collapse capitalism, then we effectively never reach the brink. If that is the case, then that is a marginal link to the C of any link at all. If you conceded magnitude weighing and we want to turn on your dissad, then you're voting on the magnitude weighing coming out of the substantive level debate that was made there. You you can mean you can discard the AC impact independently. We conceded the defensive argument on Koletsky evidence that disproves your impact term. We argued that the inability, we will extend that as in the inability for us to ever get rid of capitalism, which means your transition war claims cannot feasibly be false. The reason that we're buying these small-scale reformist measures is the extension of the Dro evidence that says the only thing student protest is oriented to do is to change the university space, is to change the orientation of the university space. You have made one argument that may help you get away from this. You have said pure capitalism is good, but that changes nothing. The only thing that helps you access your evidence is if capitalism goes away. Even if pure capitalism makes it less likely that war occurs, no war could ever occur, seeing as we do not meet the break required, which means the predictability and probability claims are simply not enough for you to win. We will go to the theory now. You are still losing theory. You have conceded that there is no right line. You have also conceded the analysis that says you cannot make new framing issues in a new speech because you can discount and move the entirety of the speech because the new framework would stop all the offense that was initially detailed. So long as that's true, all these new reasonability responses are gone, but there is one left. He says that bright lines do not exist. That is blatantly false. Even if they don't in policy, they exist in LD. The question becomes, when does things become reasonable? You have not granted 1-1, plus 1, which means we cannot grant it to you. Let us go to the research skills argument. You conceded that first 3, last 3 does not change anything. It just leads to alt-tabbing. You have had a minimal probability that things get better, but the offense you conceded once again are the Pinto evidence that says the articles are never accessible, turns all your education claims. Even if you have a few defensive arguments, we have extended the argument that says even if you give us the articles, it changes nothing because of what you justified, which means we have offense on both flows. We turned your dissad. Sorry.
I just submitted my decision.
Oh, you're the last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you want to announce or me?
Go for it. I don't know anything.
So, congratulations to both debaters. The decision is a 2-1 to the negative from Harker. So I sat, and I did think the negative won 95% of the debate, except I voted F on the link turn. I do generally prefer cards to analytics, but I think that the 2NR's link explanation did not answer the internal link turn that I think I was getting from the AF's assertion, albeit that people who like protests will increase their donations to the university's endowment. You did say the link to the app was huge because the advantage of the app is predicated on the fact there will be a lot more protests, which is true, but I think the app was problematizing the internal link between protests and backlash. So you were like, yeah, that'll lead to more protests. His argument's like, right, but that'll lead to more funding. I read your Scutari evidence, and it was pretty awesome, right? And I would generally prefer that to just an assertion that more people are going to donate, right? Like your Scutari evidence is about donors from Yale who were like, how dare you give in to these like PC activists? We're going to cut our donations. But you just hadn't done that work for me. But if you did, if you had said like prefer evidence to this analytic or this is empirical proof of the link between protests and backlash, then I think I would have easily clocked in on the funding DA. I think the app should have pointed out that this link card is about small liberal arts colleges that are private. So you might have been able to say if you had evidence, which I definitely think you should have had on the DA in the first place. So this was just more of a technical decision, but evidence that's like at public universities, the donors are more amenable to this kind of activity, whereas at private universities, the donors are going to tend to be more conservative and narrow-minded about activism, and generally pretty capitalist. So then on the case debate, starting with theory, I think the negative's right about reasonability. I think reasonability just makes sense as a problem of in-round abuse. And I don't think there was any. So I just didn't evaluate the theory debate. I don't think there needs to be an explicit bright line like Lincoln impact turn ground. I just think reasonability is that you're reasonable if you can demonstrate there's no in-round abuse. When it comes to the cap debate, I didn't evaluate it for either team just because I think the neg wins their Srenisec card that the AF drops that protests are purely affective. So there wouldn't be any transition of any kind, whether it's a complete transition away from capitalism, or even if it's just small-scale reforms. I do think that if the neg made the decision to say, concede that the protests are effective and we're just going to go all in on like cap is good. I mean, I can see why you extended both, to hedge your bets on the funding DA, like in case you want the funding DA and you want protests were effective. I get that. But I get if the AF won that the protests were effective, I might have potentially voted neg on the cap debate just because I do think all the negs cards are about pure capitalism, which is something you're a shift away from. And the Giroux evidence from the 1AC is about how young people are envisioning an alternative to capitalism. So I looked at the Giroux card, and I'm pretty convinced that it's not arguing for like small-scale reform, although it is about neolib and not just cap writ large. There is a line in the card highlighted that's like youth are envisioning an alt cap. So I did think the negative was ahead on major portions of the debate, but I think the AF made the smart move in saying, look, there was a conceded link turn on the DA. But otherwise, very great debate.
I think that this debate technically was a really good debate. I think the substantively, I think there were large ones, but I think the fact that all of our decisions probably got a pretty bad piece of evidence versus a term that was one sentence, more or less I think is probably an issue, right? I think that I agree with that, but I don't think that the theory issue is relevant. I think that if you don't go for theory in this regard, I think you have more time to explain things, this is maybe a different debate. But I just like, I'm also almost 100% certain the interpretation read in the 1AC is that his app was not disclosed with full text, which, like, I'm not sure why that's relevant to this debate. I'm pretty sympathetic to this argument. I also think the good argument that you're missing is that the ways in which LDRs disclose full text is that works for disclosure. It's large blocks of text on the wiki which make it impossible to discern where cards stop, where they end, what the tagline is. 3 words meaning is way preferable to wiki disclosure. I think that should probably be your best argument for pre-run prep. You have the better form of disclosure, which I think is probably something that carries over the ways in which most possible disclose. Full text should be in like speech shots. The cap debate I think is equally a wash. Lucas, I think that like there's some things you could have done to make parts of this debate easier. On the cap debate, I think you're doing a decent job so that you're not transition. I think you should be explaining Giroux more. I'm not totally convinced what advocating. Giroux's like kind of a liberal democratic like socialist, which again, best he's definitely not advocating move away from capitalism, but it's certainly not a more move away from this like unrestrained neoliberalism, which is probably what the Koch brothers do. But it's not like explicitly like we need to get rid of all forms of capitalism. At least not in the evidence you have. It's talking about like being democratic universities better. I think if you explain that, it makes it very clear. Ultimately, I'm voting on the link. I just vote on the dissat. I just don't think the link turn explains, especially in the context of scenarios, at least indicates that donors are mad about protests. There's not really anything indicating that they like protests. That's what. I also think that you could be reading more evidence of his, because you kind of go up on this hate speech you said, which the only answer to it is there's bills coming in the status quo that will allow for all free speech except for protest, which that's not what his evidence indicates at all. There's just bills coming that will stop protest in the status quo, which means the hate speech you said is not non-unique, and there was no real other answer to it. It seemed to be a better strategy that I thought. As soon as he said that, I kind of went back and read his evidence in 15 seconds, right? You spent a lot of time over your 2 in R, asking him a random question, but you could have just like read it. You could have been like, oh, he's wrong on this argument. Also, Lucas, the argument you should have gone for on the endowments is that was not this kind of link turn, but he would be evidence saying activism is an all-time high right now. You should have been like that non-unique to your dissat. My app is only about future legislation coming to stop protests. Right. There's nothing on the app that indicates that protests will go up. However, you've already read evidence that they are an all-time high. So anything's going to be cut. It's going to be cut in the status quo.
The reason I didn't was because in the status quo, like protest disappears. So I figured like.
But it's at an all-time high now. It's going to decrease in the future. That doesn't affect the endowments. Sure. The endowments says like donors are pissed now, and we shouldn't be seeing cuts from it. We should probably have better evidence and think that more cuts. Sure. You should also know what it's saying. Is evidence from cuts from the state and not cuts from donors.
Yeah. Why? I don't understand why you didn't vote on the link turn. Was it just because this is short? There is evidence. If I had to summarize
I think that like maybe you could buy like the 1AR with like a 15-second link turn, just like I'm gonna toss it out there, maybe donors like protest, and a link in the 2AR that's sufficient to answer what is at least a piece of leaked evidence that is extended at least as well as your link turn. The piece of leaked evidence at least indicates that donors are not about protest. I think that maybe in a world in which you don't go for theory as a 2AR, you kind of sit on this, maybe it's a different decision.
What about, and I'm pretty sure I made this analysis in the theory, is that if donors go down in one aspect and go up in another, then that means like there's no different change, like there's no difference created. Let's presume that you believe that protests cause more donations.
I get what you're saying.
So why wouldn't that make the dissat a wash? There's just nothing that changes.
I don't know what the warrant, besides like some donors might like protests is. He always says evidence indicating that some donors don't. And the vast majority you're asking indicate that a lot of people that donate to public universities like the Koch brothers all.
Sure. What do you think about the cross-application of his argument on the I-meet that says that concession means truth? And I was like, if that is true, then concession means truth. And you vote for me, disregarding if it's analytical or not.
I didn't buy that on the I-meet argument. This is
Judge
probably where I fall on truth over tech.
Sure.
I just think that truth and that is a little more
I mean, I guess I'll start on the endowments dissat. So this hasn't really been talked about, but I was kind of confused. So in the 1AR, you made like an analytic argument. You were like, he has no numbers. I have no numbers. Then when you extended this in the 2AR, you were like, I read the sickest card in the 1AR on this argument, which I didn't think that you read a card. And you were like, people who oppose protests or like protests would donate more. So like I agree that the 1NC link ad didn't have like numbers, but I guess I found it persuasive when the NR just kind of like slowed down and was like, you read an advantage about how billionaires are rigging the education system through donations. They would stop. And I don't really know what your response to that is. Like, you read an advantage that were like these rich dudes are throwing tons of cash at universities. So I don't know who likes protests and is going to donate as much money as the Koch brothers do or whatever. But I thought that, I don't think the link is like enormous, but I definitely don't think that you're like losing the turn. Also, you need uniqueness if you want to win offense on a link turn for dissat. And you can see that endowments are like all-time high now, or whatever the 1NC uniqueness card is. So even if I thought that you won the link turn, that's not like an advantage for you, barring some uniqueness. Do you have a question about that?
No.
Okay. I guess the only other thing I'd say is I guess I saw the case a little bit differently. Like if you were like anyone else reading these neolib apps, I would have probably agreed like no link. But the like card you read on the Koch advantage is like ludicrous. It says the ideology the Kochs are pushing is a palpable threat to the progressive turn the American economic narrative is taking. Americans are coming to the conclusion that our economic ideas need to be radically rethought. The Kochs are threatening that turn toward critical reform. Like, I was like probably the best like neolib advantage card I've ever seen. So I totally didn't buy after I read your ad. You're like, it's a limited thing. We didn't claim to collapse overall neolib. Someone else already mentioned your like protest advantage has a bunch of cards that say that too. I didn't look at that because the neg extended protest fails, which obviously you shouldn't do if you want to go for that link. But so I thought I just didn't understand your strategy on the cap thing either. And I guess I agree with what was said earlier. Like I think time division and the 2AR trying to go for theory and substance was kind of the big mistake here. I think, I don't know, maybe the other people wouldn't have voted on theory, but your NC on theory was just like atrocious. Like it was so disorganized. There was like not really any offense. And so like you did a better job in the like NR, but like I definitely would have spent way more time on that than what was going on.
So should the 2A go for just theory?
At least for me, I don't know what others do, but I would have thought that was better.
And why? What do you think the reasonability analysis was true? Then I need.
Well, people seem to have different interps about what reasonability is. For me, reasonability is like if it's close, like you don't vote on like minimal offense. And I don't think it's close. Like I think you're crushing. So even if reasonability was my guiding framework, I don't think it's a decision where reasonability would have an effect.
Yeah, if the whole 2AR were theory, it ultimately depends on what was said and what was explained, which might have changed my calculus. I guess from what I got in the 2AR, I was leaning more heavily towards the 2NR story, that there was no in-round abuse and that I should prioritize reverting back to substance. I also agree with the other two that there is something to be said for the fact that the Koch brothers and billionaires like them contribute so much to universities and how that might give the negative offense. I guess on the uniqueness question, though, I interpreted the 1NC uniqueness card as more of like a 50-50 argument, that it's like could go either way, so that's why I gave the AF weight, even though I thought that, in truth value, I think that the link turn is probably marginal compared to the size of the link. The Koch stuff on like a truth value speaks to me a lot, especially with recent stuff going on at Wake, because the Koch brothers donated millions to the Eudaimonia Institute, which is like a think tank in our business school. And the founder of Uncoke My Campus, where some of your cards were from, came to Wake and spoke, and I got to meet with him, so that was dope. So that's been something that's really interesting to me, so I like the one I see a lot.
Cool, thanks a lot.
And good luck next debate, Sarasi.
Thanks, Adam. Yes. Yes.